Hi, it's Bill, back again from my lovely Hospital Plain sanctuary in South Florida. As you see by the title of the video, my favorite religion, evolution. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to have to define some terms, and I'm going to tell you about my bird argument on why evolution is not so. So in defining some terms, it's going to take you back to grade school. You're going to have some flashbacks. It'll be okay. Science calls evolution a blind, mindless, random, non-intelligent process. We're going to be talking about those things. Evolution also has two mechanisms, one of which is random, there we go again with that word, random variation. The other one is natural selection. Now, natural selection is also defined as survival of the fittest. There is also two kinds of evolution that are most commonly referred to. One is microevolution. The other one is macroevolution. Microevolution is a species' ability to adapt, or a creature's ability to adapt to its environment or adapt to a changing environment. That one's not controversial. Macroevolution, however, that is evolution in the Darwinian sense, a change of kind through time. Now, before I talk about my bird argument, I need to explain to you the physics of flight. And I'm going to use a jetliner, like a passenger jet, as my example. To look at a passenger jet, most of us have flown, you see the wing. The wing has a specific shape. If you were to cut the wing off the short way and look at a cutaway of the wing, you'll see that the bottom of the wing is flat. The top of the wing has an arch. Now, as we know, an arch is always longer than a flat line. What that does is it causes the air going over the top of the wing to speed up and go faster than the air going over the bottom of the wing. Now, what this does is it creates a low pressure on top of the wing, and that is what gives a wing lift in order to get an aircraft off the ground. But you need more than wings to fly. You need that special shape of the wing, and you need control surfaces on that wing. Anybody who's ever had a window seat on a jetliner, you see when you take off and you land, the backs of the wings extend down. Those are called flaps. What a flap does is it extends that arch, allowing the wing to create more lift. And in doing that, it allows the aircraft to take off at a slower speed and land at a slower, much safer speed. At the ends of the wings, you have what are called ailerons. They work opposite each other and they control roll of the aircraft, the aircraft's ability to roll right or roll left. On the back of the aircraft, you have an additional wing which stabilizes the aircraft, and on the back of that wing, you have what's called an elevator. It's another flap. The elevator controls pitch, what's called pitch, the aircraft to pitch down or pitch up. You also have a vertical wing on the tail, which stabilizes the aircraft also and has a rudder on it. A rudder controls what is called a yaw. If you've ever seen an aircraft land in a video, it's coming in a crosswind, the pilot's really in the rudder, it looks like it's flying sideways. It is flying sideways. Now, rudder in concert with aileron allows an aircraft to do a banking turn. An aircraft has to be aerodynamic. It has to be able to cut through the air efficiently. You can't fly a brick. It's got to have round edges, and the faster an aircraft is capable of going, the sharper these leading edges and the nose of the aircraft are. The aircraft also has to have a retractable landing gear. I know some aircrafts, little small, slow ones, they got fixed landing gears. Most aircrafts that go up to speed have retractable landing gears. This reduces what is called drag, and the aircraft can fly with the landing gears down, but it'll burn a ton of fuel, it won't fly efficiently, and it will not be able to achieve high speed with the landing gears down. So, the reason I'm talking about this little lesson in physics and flight is because a bird has every single one of those control surfaces, the wing shape, and the aerodynamics. The odd part here is if evolution is blind, random, mindless, and non-intelligent, and man has a mind and intelligence. For thousands of years, man, with all his intelligence, all the intelligence he could muster, could not get his butt off the ground into the air. He tried for thousands of years. It took two bicycle mechanics in Ohio, the Wright brothers, to figure this out about a little over 100 years ago. But man for thousands of years could not get himself off the ground, yet blind, mindless, random, non-intelligence was able to pull it off flawlessly. These are blind, mindless, random, and non-intelligent. They will never invent an airplane. But science says that's what happened. Okay, let's look at, there's a problem with information. When it gets into the biology of things, there's a big problem with information. But let me back up a little bit so I don't have to do an edit. When you go to build a machine to fly, you have a threshold of physics. Now, if you do not achieve that threshold of physics for flight, you don't fly. If you overshoot that threshold of physics, you don't fly. But blind, mindless, random non-intelligence knew to stop at the exact threshold of allowable physics for flight. This is where I have to take my hat off to the evolutionist, because as a man of faith, I just don't have that much. I've tried. I don't have. I wish I had the faith of an evolutionist. Anyway, what I was going into before jumping the gun, the information problem. There is a molecule called deoxyribose nucleic acid. It's much more commonly known as DNA. Everything that is alive has DNA. Now, I know if there's any biologists watching this, there's some RNA viruses and things like that. I'm talking about the vast majority of life. If you are a head of broccoli, an orange tree, a fish, or a human being, you have DNA. DNA is the body plan for what is to be made. It also has the codes for proteins. Your body uses thousands of proteins. It assembles its own proteins. A lot of people think if I eat a piece of fish and it's got protein in it, your body does not use that protein. It takes those proteins, breaks them into their elementary particles, and then builds the proteins it needs. Now, with the information problem, if a bird came from a single-celled bacteria, or as Darwin says, a common ancestor, if that's the case, and DNA, your DNA comprises over 3 billion components. A strand of your DNA as a human being, 3 billion components. And it's everything. It's your foot size, your height, your diseases you can get or would be immune from. It's got everything in it. It's the entire book of you. To create another body, you have to add to that information. The big problem here is we as human beings in our experience in life, we know that specified information only comes from intelligent sources. If there's information, you don't go, well, look, that information evolved. No, you see a note on the ground. It says, have a nice day. What is that, 12 characters? Would you ever see that note lay on the ground and say, look at how that note evolved, and the ink put itself in a way that conveyed information to me? Wow. No. You would see that note and you would instantly attribute an intelligence behind that note. Yet, when we have the complexity, the unbelievable complexity of DNA, we say, oh, that just randomly assembled itself. Well, how exactly did it do that? And how did, when you take DNA, for instance, it's just very interesting reading, I highly encourage it. You take DNA and you alter DNA. Take a component out. Add something to it. You either get dramatically, negatively altered life or non-life. And damaged DNA that's allowed to reproduce in a cell, we have a word for that, we call it cancer. These things are all not good. There's no, every variation we see in DNA is negative. We have never seen somebody with the DNA that they're born with an S on their chest and a cape and booties and can fly around the world. No, doesn't happen. Every time we see a variation in DNA, it's a negative variant, somebody born without legs, or mentally deficient, or something of this sort. Now, if the evolutionary community, and I've read a lot on this, there are no answers for how this happened. They just go, oh, it did. Well, your DNA is well, we all have computers. Computers are written with binary code, 2 digits. Your DNA is a quaternary code. It's twice the complexity. No one ever accused the computer of evolving. I haven't heard it anyway. If it's going on somewhere, I don't know. But nobody has ever accused a computer of evolving, yet something with twice the complexity and far longer a code that assembled itself somehow, but nobody's got the answers. Another thing back to the bird is that I should have looked this up before the video, but I'm assuming there are hundreds of billions of birds on our planet. Throughout the course of history, there's probably been hundreds of trillions of birds on our planet. Yet, if a bird evolved from a single-celled organism, where are all these transitional fossils? Where's the wingless birds? Where's the ground animal with retractable landing gears? Or the ground animal with a rudder? Or ailerons? Or the randomness? A bird with its feathers growing in the wrong direction? Or a wing sticking out of its butt? I mean, that's random. If you're going to do random, do random. The only problem is physics doesn't do random. And with the bird, you either achieve physics or you don't fly. Yet we can't find all these hundreds of trillions of non-flying birds or birds with wing stumps or all the things that would make them look random. This makes great reading. There's some serious food for thought here, and I want to end the video with this. I watched a speech, a professor from China. He gave this speech at a university, and one of the big problems, even for Charles Darwin, I've read 2 of Charles Darwin's books, a big problem for him was the Cambrian layer of the Earth. The Cambrian layer, they renamed it the Cambrian explosion, because as you go down in the Earth's strata, life stops at the Cambrian. It's like the Cambrian, all life just turned on. Well, that Cambrian layer has been pushed to the surface at a place in China, a place in Canada, and a place in England. And obviously this was thousands and thousands of years ago, it was pushed up, but it's been studied. And this evolutionary biologist in China, he said, giving this speech, he said that he didn't believe the Darwinian model was correct. And one of the students had asked him, aren't you scared talking to people about the Darwinian model not being correct as a professor in China? And he had an amazing response. He said, in my country, he says, I'm not allowed to question the government, but I can question Charles Darwin. He said, in the United States, you're allowed to question your government, but you're not allowed to question Charles Darwin. I thought that was an amazing, amazing thing that man said. And the room went silent after a little chuckle. There's another man, his name's John Lennox. He's a triple doctorate mathematician from Oxford, England. He said this as well. Being that materialism, or scientific materialism it's called, it's where all you believe there is matter and energy and that's it. The physical universe is all that exists. And he was giving a speech one time, and he said, why is there such a prejudice toward life starting by purely naturalistic means? And he said, could it be that if life did not start by purely naturalistic means, that's the end of materialism as a philosophy? And that's far too high of a price for some people to pay. It's very interesting reading. Should you believe in evolution, ask questions. Do the research. And always, 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 on any subject anybody's ever heard me talk about, read both sides of any argument. I don't care if it's political, scientific, social, whatever the case is, both sides of an argument. Or you encapsulate yourself in a bubble. And that gets dangerous later in life. With that said, this is the 4th video in my commitment. It was kind of long-winded because I was lazy. And I might do some more, we'll see. But give this some thought. And reading on DNA too, I just want to tell you this. The cell is a miniaturized factory of unbelievable sophistication. It's not like boring reading on biology. It will blow your mind at what goes on inside your body. It will blow your mind. And you'll know. I don't know how anybody could reach the conclusion that there's not an intelligence behind what goes on in a single cell in your body. But with that said, I'll have another video out sooner or later. Check it out. Have a good whatever time of day or week you're watching this. We'll see you.